Well, that turned out to be a bust because, well, not really a bust, but I wanted to get that 717 taking off, since there's not a lot of interesting air traffic in Tallahassee, this not being a hub for much aviation activity. I didn't want to wait around to see that airplane back out and take off. So we are headed over to the train yard, which is, I'm getting into territory here that I know very little about. I'm not what you would call a rail fan. I'm afraid I don't rise to that definition, but I sort of like ships, planes, and trains, not automobiles. Well, I do like automobiles, but there's no hobby fascination with it. I'd say of the three, airplanes would be first among a list of enthusiasm. If you had a totem pole, the highest would be planes. Anyone that knows me knows that I used to fly semi-professionally until the spring of 2003, when I elected not to renew my license because of deteriorating eyesight. I knew I wasn't going anywhere professionally. Had taken one step forward and one or two steps back at any given time, and it was getting expensive. So I believe it was March 2003 I took my last flight. If I had waited another day or two, I would have had to renew my licenses, and I knew I was at a time in my life when I really had to stop beating a dead horse and realize that I didn't have the funds at that time to continue flying as a hobby, which I could have done, but I had really wanted to do it professionally and was actually a pretty good pilot. Did not too well in the academic part, the classroom part, but I was passable. I could always get through it. Was near the bottom of my class, like a C- student, but in the cockpit I could fly. Would consider myself average, but average for a U.S. pilot's pretty good. That's not bad. We're crossing the bridge, by the way, the CSX line, where it splits right there on Highway 20, Pensacola Street. So I stopped flying, but I know more about airplanes, even though I'm a little behind in flying them. I know more about them than trains and ships. I know something about the navigation on ships. I've been on lots of ships. I would probably say airplanes, ships, and trains in that order. But I do like all three. And one of the many things I miss about living in Fort Lauderdale, where I lived for 24 years, especially compared to Tallahassee, where I have been a resident once again for a little over 5 years, having moved back in December 2012. Not completely by choice, but anyway. There were planes, trains, ships, and for that matter, fancy automobiles in abundance times 10 in the South Florida area. I could go watch Amtrak trains, 2 northbound and 2 southbound a day. I could watch Tri-Rail, the local commuter, multiple times a day. Now they put something in just since I was visiting late last year called Brightline, which is a higher speed commuter rail intercity that makes very few stops, or actually few stops, that's putting it lightly. They will only temporarily be going Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, which is open now. About 3 weeks ago that started. When they finish the Miami station, it will be Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, just those 3 cities with no stops. So you can go city to city in about 35 minutes. Or Miami to West Palm Beach in about maybe an hour and 10 minutes at higher speeds, up to 80 miles an hour. 79 actually. And their long-range plan is to complete that, including a new genuine high-speed line of 125 miles per hour from West Palm Beach to Orlando. I think only about 40 miles of that is high speed. Most of this is existing rail, currently owned and operated by Florida East Coast Railroad, which I believe also owns Brightline. Could be wrong about that. Anyway, so we're taking a ride on Mabry Street here. Kind of the warehousey, iffy part of town. Higher crime in the residential areas around here. Also, we're around Tallahassee Community College on Appleyard Drive. Lots of power lines, warehouses, and railroad tracks over here. And as the crow flies, we're probably not but about 2 miles from the runway. One of the runways, anyway, at Tallahassee. Hey, get back over there. So I will pull over here and reposition the camera and be back with you.